Tusks up, Utah Mammoth fans, and welcome into your Utah Mammoth Daily Update. So, training camp is now officially underway, and it feels so good to say that. And Media Day gave us plenty to chew on as we head towards preseason play. Say that 10 times fast. The brand new practice facility in Sandy was the star of the show. That's where everything happened. We're talking to, I did this yesterday. I'm going to remind everybody just how awesome this facility is. We're talking 2 new ice sheets, a full gym, spa-style recovery with hot and cold tubs, saunas, steam rooms, and even a private restaurant with mobile ordering for the players. How cool is that? So they can just get done with their recovery, go straight into a meal that they ordered from their phone while they're getting their post-workout massage or steam in. That's pretty awesome. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know how normal that is throughout the NHL, but I think that's pretty cool. That's NHL infrastructure, and it sets the tone for a franchise trying to plant deep roots here in Utah, which is really nice to see after the chaos that was the Arizona Coyotes. Now, let's transition to on the ice. We got some big updates. Obviously, Ingram's gone, and now that means Vitek Vanacek really has to step up his game. And so stability in net is going to be critical this season. Vitek Vanacek only won 1 game in the regular season when he stepped in for Bobrovsky. So the Utah Mammoth are hoping that through their coaching as well as with the new environment that he'll play closer to his New Jersey Devils self rather than his Florida Panthers self. But, I mean, he won a cup with the Panthers. So, there's not really much in the way of losing on that signing, but it's still something you need to keep track of. So, injuries are also shaping the early roster. Spicy Tuna is week to week. Seems like he's always week to week. That's just his style of play. Yusuf Alimaki's out until November, December with his ACL recovery. And Caleb Desnoyers is out recovering from his wrist surgery, although we're getting closer and closer to his return. So I'll keep an eye on his return there. And then a couple of other guys that have concussions that they're dealing with that are deeper down in the system. So it's a tough start, but those spots open the door for younger players to get some experience and depth players to try and make their case. So with camp underway, and with some questions here, what are the biggest ones as we head into the new season? And so let's dig into that, shall we? First, every NHL season with its fair share of what-ifs for every team, even the Florida Panthers. But for Utah, there are some clear storylines to watch. First up, it's Krauser. Lawson Krause. He had a brutal year last year. 18 points in 81 games. He did play 81 games, which is a feat in and of itself in the NHL. In Arizona, he was a 20-goal guy. Here in Utah, he's likely going to be on the 3rd line, maybe even 4th line, depending on how this goes. On that 3rd line, he could be with Jack McBain and Alexander Kerfoot, or he could be there with Tiji Ginla. I'm thinking he's going to be there with Tiji Ginla and Jack McBain. That's my preferred 3rd line. If he could rediscover even a little sliver of that scoring touch, the Mammoth's depth gets a huge boost without having to spend any additional money or capital. Second, what happens with the kids? I've been talking about this relentlessly because I'm excited by the youth that the Mammoth have. Dmitry Simashev and Daniil Boot are both signed without European clauses. That means they're not going back over to Russia and the KHL. They are staying in North America, whether it's with the Mammoth or going down to the Roadrunners. So they could stick around or they could kick around in the AHL and wait for either injuries or their play just becomes such that the Mammoth cannot ignore them or slow pace their development and they have to put them up in the NHL. Do they get the ice time right away? Or is it AHL seasoning first? I think for Daniil Boot, he's going down to the AHL. Dmitry Simashev, with his lackluster showing in the rookie training camp showcase, all of that, he still has an opportunity in this training camp as well as in the preseason to really make a name for himself, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Third, JJ Peterka. He was the shining gem of the offseason for Bill Armstrong, hoping to finish that infinity gauntlet he has there. He put up over 60 points at Buffalo. That's no easy feat with the mess that Buffalo is. But now he's got new line mates, new travel schedules, new systems, and elevation. I know that there isn't much in the way of elevation that really affects players anymore like it used to because teams prepare for it better, but it's still a switch for him. I know he says that Utah reminds him of his home, just like Sergachev said, but adjusting to the elevation is always something somebody has to do. So him and that adjustment and how easy the Mammoth, both internally with their structure as well as with the roster, makes the transition is going to be a big deal in helping JJ Peterka realize his potential and make sure that his progression doesn't plateau. That's what I'm going to be looking out for with JJ Peterka. And finally, the biggest one, can Utah actually push it to the playoffs? I think so. Last year, they missed out by just 7 points with way too many one-goal losses and overtime losses. Way too many. They were up towards the top of the league in overtime losses. That means they are this close to being a very good team, which was both encouraging and discouraging all at the same time watching those games last year. So if they could close that gap, win a few more tight games, then this team could be skating come April. Now, to answer those questions, you need both veterans and prospects stepping up. So let's talk about who is going to be there, who's coming up, and who might surprise. So what have we got? Well, we have, let's just talk about that first line. Roster battles are what training camp is all about. And the Mammoth have no shortage of names to watch. So obviously you got Kells right here. You got Logan Cooley. They're the main offensive punch. Dylan, Gunther, JJ Peterka. A lot of offense is going to be expected from those guys. Jack McBain is locked in for a long time, 5-year deal at $4.25 million. Little bit of an overpay, but you cannot overstate how much he is a glue guy and he fits the culture of the Mammoth. So that's why they kind of paid a little bit of a premium to keep him around. And newcomers like JJ Peterka, like I said, Brandon Tanev and Nate Schmidt are all here to stabilize both ends of the ice. But the pipeline, again, the pipeline is where it gets really exciting. I'm excited for it. 4th overall pick, Caleb Desnoyers, it won't be ready until his wrist heals. But once he is, he's a future top 6 center, almost as much of a lock as you can be for that top line center if Logan Cooley didn't exist. TJ Ginla is rehabbing double hip surgery, and it seems like he's back at full health. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's a lock for opening night. So he's there. He's going to force the issue quickly, and so he's going to create room for himself on the roster. And then there's Dmitry Simashev and Daniil But. 2 big, talented prospects who might just stick if they play their way into those open lineup spots created by injuries. Most notably, Spicy Tuna on that 4th line. Brandon Tanev is kind of there to be the high-energy guy. And then if you have a big dude like Daniil But out there as well on that 4th line who has that scoring touch, I mean, you can't really ignore it if he can prove he's up to snuff with North American hockey as opposed to the Russian grinded-out game. So, guys like Cole Bedoin, Cameron Hebig are also pushing for those bottom 6 roles. I think Cole Bedoin is closer than Cameron Hebig, but they are both vastly talented players that could push for ice time and fill in during the season when injuries inevitably strike. Make no mistake, this camp is wide open. With how Bill Armstrong and Andre Turigny like to run things, everybody has a shot outside of, Sergachev and Keller and maybe Cooley, Gunther and Peterka. There's not really many locks on this roster as far as where they are. Plus, Andre Turigny is kind of a mad scientist. He likes to mix things up. He likes players that are slash players that aren't just locked into one position. And so he's going to be mixing and matching as the preseason goes along. So I'll be interested to see just what he could cook up in the lab for this team. It looks pretty fun. But, of course, there's one way to answer some of the roster questions is to make a splashy move. And that brings us to a juicy rumor. Could Mason McTavish be a trade target for Utah? So he is the name to watch. He's a 22-year-old forward in Anaheim. He's in contract talks, but reports say the Ducks want a bridge deal. Pat Verbeek says he wants a bridge deal while they can work on something longer. But Mason McTavish just wants that long-term commitment. He just wants it, and he's earned it in my eyes. That tension could make him available. They're looking towards an offer sheet, which is very interesting. Bill Armstrong and other GMs around the NHL are doing this right now, going, oh boy, oh boy. So he'd fit beautifully in Utah. McTavish brings, and I keep bouncing between McTavish and McTavish, I'm sorry. He brings versatility. Mason, I'll just call him Mason. Mason brings versatility. He could play center or wing. Just like I said, Andre Tourigny loves those kinds of guys, and he's already proven he can hang in a top 6 role, even for a crappy team like the Ducks. For Utah, slotting him alongside like guys like Cooley, Keller, Peterka, Gunther, that would instantly upgrade everything around everybody. So what would it take to pry him away from Anaheim? Here's a realistic package that Bill Armstrong could consider sending to Anaheim in return for Mason McTavish. I just did it again. So, it's going to take a lot. I've got Alexander Kerfoot. He's a veteran forward with special teams value. He's really good on the penalty kill, and he's serviceable on the power play. Plus, he's a guy who could play right now. That's something the Ducks are looking for as well because they have a lot of youth too. Prospects, Cole Bedoin, and I'm throwing in Daniil Boot. They're both some of the stronger forwards in Utah's system. It will take a lot to shake this guy loose from Anaheim, and something like that would have to go back. And then a 2026 second-round pick that Utah has like 3 of, and a conditional third if McTavish hits certain benchmarks, games played, ice time, goals, assists, points, whatever it is. That gives Anaheim, a veteran, 2 very strong prospects and future draft capital, all while keeping Utah's core intact without having to give too much up. Bill Armstrong loves doing that. Just look at the J.J. Peterka trade. Look at the Sergachev trade. He's really good at that. The Mammoth have the cap space now, but they need to be careful since McTavish's next deal won't be cheap. But the good news there is the increase of the salary cap. So, if Bill Armstrong wants to send a message that the Mammoth are done waiting and ready to contend, this is the type of swing you need to take. It's a swing I'd love to see him take because not only is it a big swing, it's also a swing that weakens a Western Conference rival, and it's a guy who's in the same timetable as a Peterka, Gunther, Cooley type player. Simashev, Maverick Lamoureux, all those guys. He fits in that timeline too. So it's not like this home run deal like the Panthers swung for Brad Marchand. It's a guy who's going to stick around for a while. So this is something that I'm going to keep my eyes on. I'm very excited to see what happens. I don't have my hopes up very high for this because Bill Armstrong has said he's very happy with what he has. We'll see. When names like McTavish or McDavid or McDonald's come available, you pay attention, your ears perk up, and you do pick up the phone. You do. Whether the team is listening or not for real, sometimes you give them an offer they can't refuse, and the deal gets done. So training camp is here. The battles are fierce, and the rumors are already swirling. Buckle up, guys. This season could get real interesting real fast, and I am here for all of it, and I will see you all tomorrow for your next Utah Mammoth Daily update.